Party primaries. All right, so we'll be continuing with our conversation here in studio, and still have Martin Ndati and Dan Manzo joining me here right now. Coming from what Hassan Omar is talking about, what is your assessment of the party primaries so far?
They have been shambolic.
All of them?
The ones, so far it's ODM, who have started their primaries. We saw the chaos in Katani. We had the mess in Busia, where big mess, where more people voted in Teso, the two Teso constituencies, than their registered voters. 109% turnout.
Wow, 109%.
What they have been singing about now, we had Tarakaniti in Teso North.
Yeah.
At least in Tarakaniti it was 84%. This one, Ojamong scored 109%. So it means everybody in Teso North is Jubilee, is an ODM member. Those who died resurrected, they voted, they went back to their graves. Those who were in hospitals stand up and voted. Those who had traveled, they still came back, which is not realistically possible.
Yeah.
When you look at the numbers across the other constituencies, the turnout was between 25 to 40%. So there's no way one region can register 109%. It's not possible. The arrangements from the media reports we were watching, Ojamong got his own ward administrators to supervise the polls. But before you even talk about what happened on the ground, how do you allow a discredited judge like Justice J.V. Juma? He knows it is a lie. J.V. was among the guys who were kicked out because of radical surgery. So how do you allow a disgraced judge like that one to be in charge of such a critical exercise? When you look at Kakamega, Noro Wino was also a lawyer, you know her. She was a magistrate in Kibera. She was kicked out for taking bribes and captured on camera, receiving bribes when she was in Makadara. Then she went to the tribunal. She had another mess there. Now, those are the kind of characters that ODM has put to be in charge of the elections. And you see, they keep on telling us, talking about integrity. If you make any small mistake on IBC, they will be all over the press making noise.
Right.
Yet they cannot give us a credible exercise. So it's a big mess because, like we said, where I come from, they have cancelled the exercise. One of the polling stations where the MP votes, the registered voters are 2,000. The people who voted are 3,785. It's not realistically possible. He loses in all the other polling stations, wins only one polling station, and picks a few numbers here, and then they're able to say he has won. So when you look at all this mess, I think we still have a long way to go. And his Secretary General says that they'll have a credible exercise. We hope they will. But we are also watching ANC very keenly. We are also watching Jubilee, especially in Nairobi, because all eyes will be focused on how Jubilee carries out the nominations in Nairobi.
All right. There is an issue that political parties are not properly funded to hold credible elections. Is this a substantial excuse for what we've seen in the last couple of days?
Well, it's one of the excuses, and you know, free and fair nominations is what really will give democracy growth in the country. The moment there are no proper structures, like you see sometimes they use locations, so it means you have to ferry people. It were better if it was amalgamated so that you can be able to have a synchronized system. In the Political Parties Act, you know, they talk of party lists. And when you interpret, you can have open party lists where members can flow in with their identity cards. But it's more guided if you have the voters registered. The normal voters register of IBC be used, and actually use the normal police stations. Then you'll have an easier moment than when you use locations, sub-locations, and you have even no way of guiding you who is who, because even that political party list is not proper. A lot of people who are registered, they check, and they find their names are still missing. And you see there is a link between government funding to the political parties tribunal, or even the registrar of political parties office, are the political parties themselves and IBC. All of them are interconnected, but right now they are not properly synchronized. So the law really needs to be polished by Parliament to ensure that they are free and fair nominations and also free and fair elections. Because a lot of times, if you're still in the nominations, you are likely to enjoy a wave of the party. A lot of times, if the people know so-and-so has stolen the nominations and the party takes that person on board, they are likely to vote for another person and the party loses.
Now, obviously, this is a high-stakes, nomination process. Let's talk about the disputes. And you mentioned that there's something that's very critical. And the PPDT came out, was it on Friday or on Thursday?
Thursday.
Of course, saying that parties, first of all, should, sort themselves out before moving on to the political parties dispute tribunal. With what we've already been seeing, and it's just ODM that is holding the primaries, how many disputes are we expecting? Are there quite a number of them? And how are we likely to see the parties solve these issues that will come about? Because it seems like everybody who loses says that there's a problem.
No, but you've seen the nominations they did in Kakamega, where the MPs have lost. Generally, the will of the people prevailed. When you talk to the people on the ground, like me who comes from Kakamega, I knew most of those guys were going to lose. And there were issues because in some of the places, the ballots arrived at 2, then they close at 4. But you see, it's intentional. They intentionally delay the arrival of ballots in certain areas. But some of the guys who have lost, look at Toboso, look at Anami, look at even Ameso, look at Otalo, they had lost the ground long time ago. And moving around in some of those places, you would expect they're going to lose. So the results there are not very surprising. The only surprise was Wisero, and I've told you why it happened the way it happened. And they have ordered a repeat. But the parties need to up their game. The excuse is not about money, because you can still have a process which people believe that is fairly credible. If the will to have a credible poll is there, it will be there. Money or no money, notwithstanding. And the parties get some funding. Not all parties are getting the political parties funding, about 4 or 5. But I don't know why my brother Manzo here has not gone to court. They force the treasury under mandamas to release the 0.5% of the revenues.
Yes.
It is anchored in law. Yes, so all they need to do is get a good lawyer like him, because he's one of the very brilliant lawyers we have around, or Eric Mutua, his friends, to go to court and compel Treasury to release money, because it is anchored in the law. They are getting, the last time they were given only 89 million as ODM, and out of what ODM got, I think gave Wiper 20 or 30 million. And yet they are supposed to get close to 2-3 billion shillings, so that they don't give this excuse that it's money which is causing a problem. 2, the so-called small parties, they are not getting funding. The MPs conspired to decide that the small MPs the small parties should not get funding. So how do you run a party without funding from the exchequer? You are supposed to prepare audits, you are supposed to comply with law, yet you are supposed to have 24 offices across the country, have employees there, have registers, do all this stuff without funding from the exchequer. Okay. That in itself is a breach of the rights of those parties. So all those issues need to be looked at. But the main problem is lack of will. The political will from the top leadership of the party is what is lacking. If we have good will and people decide we want to have fairly credible nominations, we'll do. Okay. Look at now we are headed into Luo Nyanza. There is going to be a lot of drama, because there are already lists of the preferred candidates. But when you move around, and even the polls, they are showing you who is popular. But the owners of the party don't want certain people. So those who feel that they are going to be cheated, they will definitely either cause chaos, or if they, and the party mandarins want them to cause chaos so that they disqualify them. So if they feel unfairly locked out, now there is a window of opportunity, they'll just run as independents and still win those seats. Then it suppresses the vote in the presidential poll. I
want us to move on to the next topic, but before then, Jubilee is holding their nomination, the primaries on Friday, and they're doing everything on it's like a mini elections. Do you think they're well prepared? And Manzo, I want you to be very objective to this.
No, I'm ordinarily a very objective person. You see, Jubilee has done its level best. The card, which was hacked, it had a lot of problems. We had the complaints. So they resulted into a manual system come electronic system. And we're expecting it to be very tough, especially in Kiambu and other places where You can see already candidates are disappearing, and the works are on.
The questions about that disappearance.
Suspect.
So, you know, during nominations, there is a lot of jostling. And it is because, you know, 80% of parliament does not go back to parliament. Part of it is because if there is misappropriation of CDF funds, or even an imagination of the same, it will really cost the sitting member. And therefore, don't be surprised to find a lot of members have been knocked out, partly because of some of the newspaper reports, which came out a while ago, blaming 273 members of parliament. Luckily, I wasn't there. And the auditors, I'm usually very careful on this one. And, you know, and the auditors, you know, had not even acquired proper documentation or had not completed their work well. Yet that sort of report was released. So there are many factors which affect city members. And that, subsequently, that goes to the nominations. They are also preferred candidates by, you know, the owners of political parties. Because in Kenya, still, political parties are still not owned by the people themselves. They are still owned by individuals. And that's why we need funding to free the political parties from individuals who fund them. We expect President Uhuru Kenyatta, if he funds Jubilee sufficiently, also to have certain persons who he knows will help him very well benefit from his own funding. But if he has no, you know, if he has not spent a coin on it, then there is likelihood that now you are likely to get free and fair nominations. I'm wishing all candidates well. Luckily for me, no one came to challenge me. And I invited all candidates to come and challenge me in Wiper, in Makueni. And then after that, whoever wins me, I will support them. So,
but they didn't come.
So the only candidate left to fight with me in Makueni are Jubilee candidates. Yes.
So we'll see how that goes. So let's continue and talk about NASA. I mean, Martin, it's 112 days to the elections. And Nabado, what is it that complex a situation, that balance? Because it seems like it's a balance.
There are intrigues, and you know, the initial thinking was that Raila thought Kalonzo would just play ball. But you know, Kalonzo is going back to the MOU of 2013, which is a very legitimate cause, because Wetangula and Kalonzo backed Raila. It's not them who made him not be president. Raila claims he won the election. So if they did their bit and he won the election, it was not their business to make him president. He should have made sure that he becomes president, you know.
Now you're complicating.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. Two, Kalonzo is arguing that, look, if we did it this time and we didn't win, doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results is called madness. So how do we do it the same way we did it in 2013 and expect that we will win? Three, Musalia comes on board and goes back to the backyard and tells the Luhya nation, look, this guy has told me I'll be president. I don't know on what basis it was premised, because the numbers were not looking favorable for him. But down there, whether it's a lie or the truth, I don't know. But that time when some of us were raising issues and asking, on what basis have you been promised that you will be president? They were all mad and nobody wanted to listen. So now the question is, how do you go back to the Luhya nation to tell them that, look, I'm not the candidate? Yet you promised them in January, when he was being coronated in Buhungu, that he was coming in as the presidential candidate. Wetangula somehow has mellowed down, because his thinking was Kalonzo will be the candidate and he deputizes based on the MOU of 2013. Now, Orengo has said they don't honor that. They didn't even register. I don't know why you let your brother speak down, because he has some of the best lawyers around him. So they should have made sure that they secure a watertight deal, because the history of these MOUs in this country is very sad, starting with the famous one of 2002. Then the one of Musalia, the Madimon one, the one of Kalonzo and the PNU, then now Kalonzo and Raila. So it's a very sad state of affairs, even after we entrained it in law, that it should be registered with the register of political parties. The guys still violate it. Yeah, so the political will is not there. And the challenge is time is running out. Jubilee is set, they are watching. Look at the nominations. They are laughing, you know. They are sitting pretty. So it's just like him, you know, he has no opponent. So as the other guys are struggling, he is sitting pretty and watching and waiting. Whom do they bring? It's exactly what Jubilee is doing, you know. They are busy campaigning. They are even clawing back lost ground, you know. The truth is Jubilee has underperformed. But the disorganization in the opposition and the time is running out. If they don't put their act together and give us a candidate latest next week, they might as well forget about this whole stuff of winning the presidency.
But is it that easy? I mean, look at what the jostling between Kalonzo, and everybody's coming out and saying, you know, that I'm the better candidate. And just to take you back to what Agnes Zani said last week in regards to that leaked report. I don't know how much of it was leaked, but I mean, there's that question about it still being a Raila Kalonzo ticket. And the question is really, with all this back and forth that we're seeing within NASA, are we expecting a mind-blowing combination, really?
Yeah, you know what had happened with the leaked report? It was partially leaked. And she had no authority to do so because they are co-chairs. I think she just got excited with one of the options. In that report, there were 12 options of the best winning candidate, and I can assure you there are several combinations where in some of the combinations even the Honorable Raila Odinga is supporting others. Well, now that she leaked that and she has since apologized and corrected, I'm very sure within the week now, once they go into the retreat, we are able to come out with a presidential candidate who will all support. You have seen the Jubilee, you have seen the Luhya Nation say now, it is Mudavadi. This business of chief minister, let the Honorable Raila become the chief minister himself. There has been all that argument. Now the Kamba Nation has said, look, it is Kalonzo's turn. We have the MOU. And I believe, other than registering MOUs, you know, it's a gentleman's word.
Yeah.
It carries more respect than it just appearing on a register somewhere. It's what you mean, what you say is your bond. It is true, actually, the Honorable Raila Odinga allegedly won the election. So if he won the election and he's the president who never was, that means the MOU was served, as he has just said.
Okay.
But without going back into that history, we need to look at the future, because the future is the best, and their attitude is what will be spread to the nation. If they have a positive attitude, if they have a winning attitude, I am sure that will be sent to all the NASA systems in the country, and will win the next election. But if they send a wrong signal, then it could be a disaster. It is them who will bring back Jubilee to power, because Jubilee has already lost and is just waiting to go home, and is hoping something goes wrong with NASA so that they can accidentally go back to power.
All right, let's talk about supporters of the different principles supporting whoever it's going to be. Are we likely to see that? Remember that last week we had the Mudavadi supporters saying that Chief Minister is, they don't want to hear anything to do with Chief Minister. Now you've just seen youth from Ukambani saying that they don't want political rejects, alluding to Raila Odinga. Are we likely to see that in case it's Wetangula, that the other supporters of the other principles actually support them?
There is going to be a problem, because look at Busia. You have Otuoma, who won the nominations. Then you have Ojamong, who also won the nominations. Now, if you give Ojamong the ticket, you expect the supporters of Otuoma to support him? It will not work. And you see, the Luhya Nation in Teso are the majority. So they'll feel cheated. Now, if you give Otuoma the ticket and leave Ojamong, the Tesos will feel that we have been mistreated because we are minority. So those issues are going to play out. And it needs a lot of wisdom on how to resolve some of those issues. Because calling for a repeat poll, it's not going to solve the issue. Because Otuoma said he's not going back. He won the election, and he's supported by the likes of Jacob Midio, that he should be given the ticket. So it puts Raila in a very awkward position. Two, Nairobi comes into play. You already have Kidero with Mweke from the Luo Nation and from the Kamba Nation as a governor, a deputy running. So where do you put these Luyas? They are just flower girls to escort these guys. They vote in Nairobi for a Luo governor, a deputy from Mukambani, the same thing presidential. That is the message the guys are saying down in Western, and even here. And it resonates very well with the people out there. So if Musalia is not on the ballot, either as presidential or running mate, it is going to be very difficult for you to convince the Luhya Nation to come along.
Chief
it will
Minister?
be very, they will not agree, because you know, the myth which Musalia created initially was that he didn't do much for the community, because Musalia has been in cabinet, Jirongo has been in cabinet, Wetangula has been in cabinet, Musalia has been vice president. Moody has been vice president. Wamala was vice president. So the Luhya is asking, why haven't you done much for the community? And they were saying, no, we didn't have the presidency. So now we want the presidency so that we deliver what you guys have been lacking. So how do you go back to the same people and tell them now, I have missed the president, I'm still going back to be minister, and I will be able to deliver with this? It will not work. So they are in a very awkward position, and any misstep will destroy the political careers of some of those guys.
Could they be regretting the coming up together of these 4 people?
It was hurried. You know, the lie that if we come together, we remove Jubilee without thinking through. You know, if you have issues in your marriage, you don't abandon one marriage to go into another. You retreat back home and sit and reflect and sit with your parents, with your siblings, and soul search. Now, these ones, because they were not happy with Jubilee, they decided, let us run to Raila here. Okay. But that was not strategic. So they needed to sit. Musalia should have gotten into a watertight agreement. These guys already had an MOU. So he should have gotten them to sign an MOU as a code. Then he comes in as ANC. But you see, he helps Raila run away from the MOU of 2013 because Raila, the Wetangula and Kalonzo were holding Raila by the neck and telling him, you must support this. Yes. Then Musalia comes up with NASA and helps Raila get an exit route.
From the MOU.
So after he runs away from the MOU, but now he has realized there are bigger problems ahead. And now you see, look at some of the press today, that the 3 now want to gang up and isolate Raila. So you see, if they try that, Raila will walk out. And if he loses, he will rush to Jubilee the way he did in 1997 and form a coalition with them and lock these guys out in the opposition.
Well, Manzo, let's talk about the kind of questions that they have to answer in regards to coming up with who the flag bearer is going to be. What are those things that they're looking for in this candidate?
First of all, there must be another MOU between the 4 of them.
These MOUs have become too many now.
And this time around, we must frame the MOU properly so that everybody is taken care of in this particular MOU. Of course, there is a issue of formula of sharing government between the 4 of them, so that to make sure there is equity. Of course, there is an effort. You can see everyone has made a serious effort in this matter. And I can assure you none of them, and they know, can get to anywhere by themselves. So they have no choice but to stick together, but come up with a formula, a working formula, which is sellable to the country and to the NASA members. You can see the way he's reasoning. I do agree with him to a certain extent that it's a good analogy that if you have a Raila Kalonzo ticket, then where do you take the Luhya nation? If you have a Raila Musalia,
that is
then that's just one small corner of the country. Where do you take the Kamba nation and the Eastern Bloc, which is bigger, even spreads to the coast and very many other parts of the country.
And even Nairobi.
And even Nairobi. What are you going to do with Nairobi? So it becomes a little tricky. If you don't treat the Luhya nation well, some of them may as well say, we are not in Jubilee, we are not in NASA. We decide to support in Jubilee.
Or they decide not to vote.
Or decide, we are not going to vote, which if you don't vote, then you actually voted negatively. And you have made another person, win. So it's a tight balance. I believe they are brainy enough, they are caring enough for the nation, and they will first of all remove all selfishness. And I'm really urging the supporters, including myself, not to push them further. I think the Honorable Raila has been pushed enough. The Honorable Kalonzo has been pushed, to become the president.
Okay.
We have also pushed the Honorable Kalonzo enough. Musalia is under a lot of pressure. You saw the placards. What is he going back home to tell the Luhya nation what happened? The same thing with the Honorable Wetangula. He has a very big block in Western, which you cannot ignore. And I think now by the 3 of them ganging, as I've seen in the newspapers, it's also a strategy. So let's see where this gets into, and I believe we'll get the best by Friday.
Hopefully, because we were 112 days only. Thank you very much, Martin Ndati. He's a political analyst, and Dan Manzo, Member of Parliament for Makueni. Thank you for your time. We'll talk on Friday to see what's going to happen. All right, so we'll take a break right now on News Center, but we're coming back shortly to begin our second hour of the show. Don't go away. We have so much